Tonight, we gather together to hear a story many of us have heard before. The story of a night long, long ago when a child was born. A very special child. One that would grow up and change the world. Not as a great warrior, although he would conquer the greatest earthly power of them all. Not as an astute politician, even though he would lead the world's governments in a shared endeavor. And not as a great orator, despite the fact his words would hold true for 2,000 years. He changed the world simply by coming among us, loving us. Not for whom we had become, but for who we were, who we are. God's own. And promising to be with us forever. I don't know about all of you tonight, but knowing that I am God's at times can be so wonderful, and at others, so humbling. I mean, when I'm down and out, knowing that God is with me is what gives me strength to get through the day. Not because God is so powerful, so magnificent, but because God knows and understands what it is I'm going through. Because as our gospel tonight reminds us, God in Jesus Christ has gone through it too. Maybe not in the same way. Let's face it. Jesus has no clue what it is like to save something on the computer and then not be able to find it. But he knew the same frustration. He knew what it was like to want something so bad, knowing it's right there in front of him, yet unable to get his hands on it. Unable to help others see how important it is, what it is he wants. Nor did Jesus know what it was like to try and do something only to have the phone constantly ring, or the email go ding, or text message after text message interrupting his train of thought. But he did have countless throngs of people coming near to hear what he had to say and to seek out his healing touch. Like us, he knew what it was like to be diverted from doing what it is he wants to do in order to do what he needed to do, in order to do what had to be done. One of the things we remember tonight is not that Jesus came among us because we're so much fun to be around, or that he wanted to experience earth in a way he had never done before. He did it because that was the only way to get done what needed to be done. If we were ever to find our way back into right relationship with God and with one another, that's the part I find so humbling. This extraordinary undertaking to guide us and save us from ourselves is more than we deserve. At least more than I feel I deserve. I mean, maybe if I sought out God my whole life, always trusted in God, I would somehow feel worthy of God's grace, welcoming the occasional leg up that God offers. Maybe I'd even come to expect God to give that leg up even when I don't ask for it. Wait a second. God knows what we need before we ever ask. So if I've been faithful, if we've been faithful, well, I deserve it. We deserve it, right? sense of pride is why Jesus came. That's why he came among us. We had begun to think so highly of ourselves, we didn't think we needed God. At least not in our day-to-day lives. Oh, sure, we would call upon God when we wanted God to do something for us, when we wanted God to do our bidding. But we wanted God to do so on our terms, not God's. And as time passed, when we saw that God would not jump when we asked God to jump, we turned away from God, seeking a leg up in and through someone other than God. Most often, ourselves. We really messed things up. We were headed in a direction that was taking us farther and farther away from God. And despite God's efforts to lead us back in and through the prophets, we became more and more determined to walk the path that we had created, the one that we had chosen for ourselves. Why? Because we thought we knew better. God sits on a heavenly throne while we slug it out, struggle here on earth. God could not possibly know what we know because God is there and we are here. But on that night, long ago, God left there and came here. So that God could walk with us, leading us along the way back into right relationship with God and with one another. Born of a woman in the middle of the night, we are told that the arrival of God incarnate was heralded by the angels, not to the rich and the powerful, but to the lowly shepherds, to those who struggled most in a world that had lost its way. And when they go to see what it is the angels proclaimed, what did they find? They found a baby. A baby wrapped in cloth, lying in a manger. A baby that they were told would one day grow up and be the long-awaited Messiah. Now, we don't know what type of Messiah they hoped for. A warrior, a leader, a great prophet. But what we do know is they walked away that night having experienced the love of God in a way that caused them to give thanks and praise for what they had seen and what they had heard. The baby they encountered that night changed their world and has gone on changing the world for all of those who are drawn near, and even the world of those who choose not to be. We come together tonight for a wide variety of reasons. Each of us hoping for different things from the one we call Messiah, the Christ. It is my prayer that whatever it is that we hope for, what we walk away tonight with is an assurance of God's love made real in Jesus Christ. And that we somehow experience it in our hymnody, our prayers, in the Eucharist that we share, so that we too may walk away giving thanks and praise for what God has done and is doing in our presence, knowing that our lives have been forever changed too. Amen.